Hi, I'm Daniel Andrews, owner and creator of the DAN Show, and welcome to my latest 2021 NFL Preview video. Today, I'm going to break down the Denver Broncos. But before I get started, if you are new here, this is your first time here, I just got one simple question to ask you. Do you like football? Because if so, you're in the right place. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button and go ahead and ring the bell. That way you can get notified every time I come out with a new video. If you've been here before, you already know the drill. Give me a thumbs up and drop a comment below with what your opinion is on the Denver Broncos for the upcoming 2021 NFL season. Now, here's how the video works. I'm going to give you 3 things I like about the Denver Broncos. Then I'm going to give you 3 things I don't like about the Denver Broncos. But stick around to the very end where I break down the Vegas over-under and if I am going to put action down on the Denver Broncos. Let's start with the first thing I like with the Denver Broncos, and that's their backs and receivers. If you take Denver's first 2 draft picks from last year, Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler, you add former Pro Bowl receiver Courtland Sutton, who was injured last year, and Tim Patrick, who had career highs in receptions, yards, and touchdowns, 51 receptions, 742 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He's, by the way, receiver number 4. Those are solid receiver number 2 numbers, but he's now wide receiver number 4 on this team. You add Noah Fant and the backfield duo of Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. Those 7 could be as good as any group of 7 as far as backs and receivers in the NFL. I'm a Chiefs fan. If you take Chiefs' top 4 wide receivers, Travis Kelce, CEH, and whoever's the backup for CEH, that's actually a training camp battle. I would take Denver's. I actually would take Denver's group. Now, if you took those 14 players together and you ordered them in 1 through 14, Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce would go 1 and 2. But as a whole, I'm taking Denver's backs and receivers over my Chiefs. They're that good. In Sutton and Tim Patrick, you have 6'3", 6'4" wide receivers, so you have size. KJ Hamler, supposedly a 4.25 guy. He didn't run the 40 at the combine, but you can watch him on film. He's definitely a 4.3 guy, one of the fastest guys in the league. And then you have Jerry Jeudy. It's only time before he's a complete superstar in this league. You have Fant, who is wildly underused and among the fastest, most athletic tight ends in all of football. And then the duo of Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams is solid. Now, it's no guarantee how Williams is going to do in the NFL, but I love this game in college, and I think he's going to transition perfectly because he doesn't have to be the number 1 guy. He's not coming into the Broncos organization expecting to be the number 1 guy. He's going to be the number 2 running back behind Gordon, and that's perfect, especially for a team like Denver that wants to run the football. The second thing I like about the Denver Broncos is their new corners. Denver did a great job in free agency and got Kyle Fuller and Ronald Darby. Then they get Patrick Surtain, too, who was my number 1 corner in the draft. He was my number 1 corner by a pretty big margin. So you get the best corner in the draft plus 2 free agents that are going to be your starters this year. You get a major upgrade in your corners, and you put them together with your Pro Bowl safety and Justin Simmons. You have a vastly improved secondary going into 2021. Kudos for Denver for going ahead and getting 2 new starters. And I think it's just a matter of time before Patrick Surtain becomes a superstar. Now, granted, he is a rookie. But I watched his dad. His dad played several years here in Kansas City. Really, really good player. And then when I watched Surtain in college at Alabama, he has the look of somebody who's just going to be a superstar in the NFL. So really good job by the Denver Broncos boosting their secondary. And the third thing I like about the Denver Broncos is Von Miller comes back. Von Miller returning is just a big boost for the Denver Broncos. I thought going into last year, Von Miller was the best defensive player in the AFC West. And then when he went down, that was just a big blow for the Denver Broncos. Now, if Von Miller never plays another snap in the NFL, he already walks into Canton. He's already one of the greatest players who ever played the game. So, he doesn't really have to prove anything, but him coming back is such a big boost for the Denver Broncos. Now, he is going to be 32, and he's coming off of a very serious injury, it's not realistic that he's going to be the same guy. He's not one of the 5 or 10 best defensive players in the National Football League, but just having him back into the starting lineup is going to be a major boost for the Denver Broncos. Now, you have to understand, Denver's pass rush wasn't horrible last year. They got 42 sacks without him. But I was surprised at how bad the run defense was. Believe it or not, Von Miller's really going to help with that. And I think him just being back really is a big boost for the Denver Broncos defense as a whole. So just to recap, the 3 things I like about the Denver Broncos is I love their backs and receivers, one of the most underrated and best units in the NFL. I love their corners. They basically get 3 new starting corners. I think it's going to be a big upgrade. And of course, you get Von Miller, who returns. Now, 3 things I don't like about the Denver Broncos. The first thing I don't like about the Denver Broncos is the quarterback competition. Now, yes, I'm old school, and it is an old school saying that if you have 2 quarterbacks, you really don't have one. In my opinion, this should not be a training camp battle. Denver should have their guy and should be tailoring their offense around that quarterback's strengths and weaknesses instead of going into training camp trying to decide which one they're going to go with. See, both these quarterbacks are almost polar opposites. They have different strengths and different weaknesses, different abilities, different skill sets completely. Now, I loved it when Denver didn't draft a quarterback, and also loved bringing Bridgewater in. Now, the new general manager was in Minnesota when they drafted Bridgewater in the first round, so bringing him in made a lot of sense. I don't think it makes a lot of sense to have this be an open competition. And that kind of goes hand in hand with the second thing I don't like, and that's I'm not really fond of the coaching staff. Just to be clear, I really like Vic Fangio. I think he's a world-class defensive coordinator, but I'm not really sure that he's a good head coach, and even if he is a good head coach, he may not be the right fit for this team. Now, normally I love a new head coach being paired with an offensive, in this case, offensive coordinator with head coaching experience. Vic Fangio is a defensive guy. Pat Shurmur's an offensive guy. But it seems like these 2 coaches want to run a old school approach, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And this offense isn't built to be an old school offense. They got speed and athleticism all over the place. When I watched Denver last year, it seems like they were a Ferrari towing a camper behind them. I mean, it just seems like they were just stepping on their own foot, and it just seems like that the coaching staff really wasn't putting the players in the best position to succeed. Now, I also will admit that I'm not a fan of Vic Fangio's clock management. I also think that that's substandard, but Denver fans, Andy Reid was also questioned for this, which is a perfect segue into the third thing I don't like about the Denver Broncos, and that is their ceiling is second place in the AFC West, and they know it. When you have the quarterback competition that they're going into training camp with, and the coaching staff really not getting the most out of the players, the best the Denver Broncos can do is get into a wild card. Now, keep in mind, Tampa Bay, who won the Super Bowl last year, also was a wild card team, so it's not the end of the world. But bottom line, despite a very talented roster, they know they can't compete with Kansas City. In fact, Kansas City has won 11 straight against the Denver Broncos, so unless Kansas City has some injury issues, they get some bad breaks and lose those 50-50 penalties, Kansas City will sweep Denver again. I think the absolute best Denver can hope for is to break that streak of consecutive victories, which is a really hard thing to accept going into training camp. But bottom line, I think that they know that the best that they can do is second place in the AFC West, and that's a tough thing to accept, especially for a team as talented as the Denver Broncos. So just to recap, the 3 things I don't like is I don't like the quarterback competition going into training camp. I'm not a fan of the coaching, especially with this talented team and the way that this team's built. I'm not sure they really got the right coaching staff. And I don't like the fact that this team is going into the season knowing that the best they can do is finish second place in their division. Now, let's break down the Vegas over-under, and then I am going to reveal if I am putting action this year on the Denver Broncos. The over-under for the Denver Broncos is 9, and just a few weeks ago on my live stream, when I broke down the AFC West, the over-under was 8.5, so the general betting public likes the Denver Broncos. Currently, it's even money on over 9, and under 9 is negative 120, which means you have to wager $120 to win 100. Of course, even money, 100 will win you 100. Now, no matter who wins the quarterback battle, I really liked over 8.5 because I think Denver's about a 9-10 win team. At 9, I still like the over, just not quite as much. To me, Denver definitely got better this offseason. In fact, they could be an extremely dangerous team. However, I'm not sold enough to put action on over 9, but I really liked over 8.5. So as of today, right now, I'm going to hold off on putting action on the Denver Broncos, but I really do like the over. Talent-wise, this is definitely a playoff caliber team. If they stop stepping on their own toes, the Denver Broncos will make the playoffs in 2021. So, look, if you haven't done this already, please hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out. And don't forget to give me a thumbs up. And most important, put a comment below on what you think Denver will do in the upcoming 2021 NFL season. Now, Wednesday, I am going to break down the Dallas Cowboys, so I will see you Wednesday.